In this video, I want to discuss the assignments you create for your online course. Now, obviously, in didaktik, we realize that different contents, different subjects may have different aims with their courses. Overall, we want our students to study the content and learn it well, basically. But in online settings, it's often important to consider the workload of the student and the size of the assignment, because we often find that it's better to divide a big assignment into smaller parts, because that makes it easier for the student to overview it, and often it might be a really good idea that the student receives feedback on several occasions rather than handing in one big assignment at the end of the course. So, this suggests a more formative approach to teaching, where the teacher follows up on the student's study progress all through the course rather than only at certain uh, times. But as you can see, I have student content, student teacher, and student digital spaces interactions here. And in a lot of distance courses, we use the digital space to provide feedback. Quizzes that corrects themselves are one very popular example, and it helps the students to focus. It gives the students immediate feedback, and this is often really, really helpful for the students. But of course, all of this depends on you and how well you make the content meaningful, and how and what type of assignments you design for your course. Even if you may have quizzes that help students gain feedback, if the assignment is not meaningful or relevant to the students, or if the students don't understand why they're supposed to be doing the assignment, the quiz won't help in itself. So, as a teacher, you do need to take a step back and look at all the assignments you've provided for the students and consider if they make a meaningful uh, whole, or if there are some illogical decisions on your part, and perhaps some of the assignments may be more difficult than others, or they may be too difficult even. And this is, of course, really complicated questions, because designing good assignments that are challenging but not too challenging is really hard. And this leads me to the next point, that the progression of assignments is often very good to consider, because if you have a big assignment and a more complicated assignment, perhaps it's good if the student provides a draft first, so that you can provide feedback and the student knows if they're on the right track. But you may also consider the complexity of different assignments. Often it's good not to start with the most complicated assignments in the beginning of a course. Rather, they can come later when the students have had time to study the materials and read up a bit on the content. But you may also want to play with different audiences and consider how students can be challenged or encouraged to also provide assignments that they address to a different audience, perhaps the scientific field, perhaps the society, perhaps a kindergarten even. It depends very much on your course, but changing the audience of the assignment can sometimes be quite exciting and creative, and you might want your students to create a pod or a video where they explain whatever they've been studying in simpler terms, or in scientific terms, or whatever it is you're after. Um, in digital spaces, we have the opportunity to use digital feedback, and this is often very helpful for the student and for the teacher. And the frequency and format and mode of feedback is of course something we need to consider as teachers, and although digital feedback can be very helpful, the feedback from the teacher also needs to be timely. So you need to consider when your feedback is mostly needed. And this might not be very easy to see at first, but once a course starts, you might realize that at this point the students should receive some kind of feedback. And you can obviously do this in different ways. You can give individual feedback, but this takes often a lot of time, and you might want to provide some short written comments because that is fastest for you. But in distance courses, it might also be interesting for you to test video feedback or audio feedback, because feedback can be very sensitive, and just listening to someone talk through your work can make it more approachable than if you only receive written comments. And again, varying feedback is probably a good idea, so that the students may receive some written feedback, maybe some digital feedback, and perhaps some spoken feedback, or a more embodied form of feedback from you.